either a really, really big guy, but they didn't say it was an ape, and they didn't say it was anything other than a big guy. And they got to protect themselves that way too. If they say something like that, and they would get out, there'd be like 400 cameras parked in front of the house.
True.
But the odd stuff that people would never like. We have a bone saw and a dissecting kit in the vehicle, in one of our vehicles, in the truck, the big truck. And if I come along and I find a deer carcass and it's all ripped up, tore up, I'm going to take samples of the skin. I'm going to take samples of the hide. I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to take DNA swabs wherever I can find anything. I'm going to take blood samples if there's any left. I'm going to take all that. So not that I'm interested in how it died. I'm pretty sure I know how it died. But I want to know what killed it. So was it a black bear? Was it a mountain lion? Was it a group of coy wolves? Or something that's unknown. If it comes back unknown, that's the one I'm looking for.
Exactly.
Chew marks. When people say they find bones in the woods, I said to one guy, I said, what do you do with the bones? He said, I throw them away. I said, why don't you look at them? Carry a magnifying glass with you, put it in your pack, look at them. What do they match? Well, I don't know what they match. I said, well, go online and buy go online and get all the information for a wolf or a bear. You can get all those dimensions there, and then match it up to what you got on that bone. At least it'll tell you what it might be. There's just so many little things that people don't do that could give them an answer.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I don't have any of those things. Because what I'm usually seeking, I shouldn't be able to utilize that.
Right. Sure. Exactly.
But if I were doing what you do, I don't think I would leave home without them.
But let me ask you this. Now this was a case, and I can't remember who did it and where it happened. Forgive me for that part. I'm kind of thinking it was Michigan, where a paranormal group kept going back to this house because the people in the house kept complaining that somebody was in their back room, and they always started rattling at the windows and the doors in the back room. And so they went back there, and one of the investigators noticed there were fingerprints on the window. Some were smudged, but there were a couple there that were good. And these people were pretty much scared to death. I mean, they were ready to sell the house and move out of state, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, my word.
So one of the investigators on that team was a police officer. And he brought a kit in, portable kit. And he took the prints off the window. And on his own, while dealing with these folks, he got everybody's prints. It was the son-in-law.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What was his motivation?
Being a dumbass, I guess, just trying to scare everybody, get famous that this house was haunted, and his idea was they were going to open it up to the public and people would pay to come in and walk around and take pictures and all this stuff.
Well, they would have if it was for real, eventually.
Yeah. I try to have everything that maybe I'll never use. That dissection kit. I may never use it. I may just pull a knife off my belt and do what I got to do. But I mean, there's a microscope in the truck.
That's logical.
If I want to look at something, out in the field, but it's just like with the paranormal guys, cameras are very important to them. EVPs are very important to them in the work that they do. Background research is very important in that line. So, the showing the empathy to the people that you're dealing with, where I'm out in the woods, I don't have to show empathy to anybody.
Sometimes
right?
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah. So who am I got to show empathy to? Deer walks up or something. Yeah, hello, how you doing? I don't have to do that stuff. And same now, ufology, yeah, but not as much as the paranormal, because people that see something in ufology, they're usually all cranked up and, oh man, I saw this, I'll talk 100 miles an hour. But I've been to places as a visitor, as an observer,
right,
where I see people that are wrecked. I mean, they're physically and mentally wrecked. And to see a paranormal researcher, showing empathy to the family and being very concerned and doing whatever they have to do to make this whole whatever investigation culpable and acceptable.
Yeah.
And I don't have to do that in the field. I don't have to do that with ufology unless, it's an oddball case where, might have been an abduction case.
Oh, I want to go to abduction cases too, but we're at our first break of this hour. So,
man, time flies.
I'm telling you. Well, it's a
I
great
think Frank
topic.
Frank has something to do with this, I'm telling you.
It is. He's making my time work. But we'll be back in 3 minutes. Y'all enjoy.
Poor Frank.
You are listening to WPHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
And we're back. I am so sorry to cut things off in mid-thought, but got to get those little breaks in there. So thank y'all for being patient, and thank you for coming back. Butch, you came back too, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yay. And I do want to put out there, we have been so involved with our conversation that I have failed to restate that Butch is the founder and director of the UFO Research Center of Pennsylvania. And you can actually go to the URC Corps of Pennsylvania, the UFO R-Corps, R-COP.
Yeah, UFO Research Center of Pennsylvania,
I'll finally get it right. But, because I didn't have the website right in front of me. I apologize for that.
Q4cop.com.
There you go. So that's where you can find him. That's where you can find a whole lot of information that's going to help you if you are interested in doing your own investigations. You can find how to as Butch said, reach out, ask questions. If there's something that you want to do that you're not sure of the process, reach out to him. He has people everywhere. He can get you in touch with someone. If you need field training, I think maybe you can do that too, right, Butch?
Yes, ma'am.
So there's all kinds of options available for you if this is something that you think sounds interesting to you. And make sure, thank you, now it's in chat. But I am just saying that it's something that matters. Getting it right, doing the steps, you have to follow procedures because it is just like a forensic investigation.
That's exactly what it is.
And
look, whether it's something in the woods or something inside of an old barn, right? Or whether it's in the sky. The forensic techniques you use, although they may be a little different, they're a lot closer than most people think. I don't live very far from Gettysburg, and I mean, that place to me is just weird.
It is so weird. I was there this summer.
Oh man, I had one experience, and I wasn't even involved. As a matter of fact, I was still a police officer at the time. I had nothing to do with any of this. And my son was, Chris was probably 11, 12 maybe, and he wanted to go down to Gettysburg, and they still had the tower where you climb up the tower, you could overlook the battlefield. So we were up on the tower, and we looked at all that, and we came down, and he wanted to go over to where Pitch Charge was. So we were on the Union side of where the cannons were and looking down toward the wooded area where the charge started, Pickett started to charge. And my son looked at me and went like, I don't feel right. And all of a sudden and I know it sounds strange, it sounds weird, but I looked at him and he was pretty much white. Mm-hmm. And then I just had this real uneasy feeling that something really bad was about to happen, to the point where I reached under my jacket and I had my .45 in my hand. And I said, get back to the car now. And he got back to the car. And my wife wouldn't even get out of the car. She said, there's something wrong here. So I kind of looked around, put my gun away, got back to the car, and I've been back since.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I
have no idea what it was, but it wasn't right. There was something just not right. And
yes.
At least it wasn't right. It wasn't right to me to the point where I was ready to defend myself. So I don't know what it was, what happened. I know what happened at the battle. I mean, those guys charging up that hill or across that field were pretty much vaporized. But that usually happens when you run into a bunch of cannons. Yeah. But that was the only experience I ever had there. But I've heard so many stories over the years of Gettysburg, everything from UFO sightings to crypto, Bigfoot sightings, alien abductions, just you name it. I mean, paranormal things out the crazy. So to me, it's just a weird place. I always thought it was kind of the weirdest place I ever heard of. People talk about these old prisons and stuff. I'm going like, yeah, I don't know, man.
Well, I have been to a jail and I have been to a prison. And I had some of the most bizarre experiences of my life in the jail, and it was a very relatively small county jail. And it's just bizarre to me that all of these experiences were still happening. I didn't understand that. When I was at Gettysburg, that place is freaky. Freaky, freaky, freaky. And I started the drive up where the Alabama monument was and just took it all the way through. And I got down to where basically it was the massacre area. And there were places along that drive that I just had to get out. I had to stop and get out of the car because the pull was so strong.